Hello there, my name's Eric. I'm a learning futurist based in Japan. And in this video, I'm going to be specifically talking to the Moodlers, the Moodle Moot community, and how it relates to learning analytics using things like augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. This is a growing topic as we can glean a lot more information from users of these technologies, and there are a lot of pitfalls and risks and opportunities, and I want to talk about some of the trends leading into these new steps, into this new frontier of learning analytics using these tools in this video. So in this short video, let's talk about learning analytics and immersive technology, issues and trends. All right, so talking specifically into Moodle, but before, just to give us a little bit of context, immersive technology is a whole spectrum, a range of technologies from augmented reality, mixed reality, extended reality. There's whole new terms being coined at an increasing pace moving forward, and all of those things put into educational context is called immersive learning. And I hope to try to talk about how immersive learning might start to get integrated into more public systems, more open source systems like Moodle. Right, so this is an example of virtual reality, me hitting a bunch of blocks in succession inside of a virtual world. Here is an example of augmented reality where you looking through the lens of some digital construct that's layered on top of the real world. Think like a digital Pikachu in Pokemon Go running around in your location. This is an app I developed. I'll be trying to introduce this a little bit, how it might be integrated into Moodle, and then mixing those together in a more immersive manner. This is me inside of virtual reality, teaching people outside of virtual reality, my physical being inside a virtual world, and mixing those together for a mixed reality lecture. All right, so all of those together, we're going to start to combine and have this spectrum. We're going to start to, as learning designers, as developers, start to think about where we're putting our learning context in the sense of how much digital, how much immersion, how much augmented virtual mixed reality in this spectrum moving forward. And it's going to be, I think, a more increasingly design decision, an approach decision moving forward, especially when we try to increase things like simulations as we connect them to our environment, such as a Moodle course. Right, so we know that there's a lot of benefits to immersive learning, and one I'm going to talk about hopefully in depth today is the learning analytics. So we have all these research that's growing and saying that there's a lot of benefit in using virtual simulation, using augmented reality in different learning contexts. It's not all good. It depends on how it's delivered and designed, of course, but the analytics portion of it, right? Just using these technologies, you are able to collect a lot more information about the user and how they're interacting with the media, the content, whatever you're using it through this technology, because you are more immersed in it. Your things like your head movement, your eye movement, your biometrics, your voice, and other things are then given immediate feedback in these virtual settings. So if I have a headset like this, I have it strapped to my face, I look up, down, left, right, I move in 6 directions. All of that is immediately taken in as data and reflected in virtual environments. And that can then be reflected in the analytics used as data to analyze how that media is being perceived. So there's a whole lot of different feedback, and some of it is quite dangerous, which I talk about a lot when I introduce this concept to especially those that are not in educational technology related fields of study. So privacy, adoption of, for example, more automated procedures and psychological effects are all things that we've seen in the mobile era that can be exacerbated when we start using this technology, right? So I just mentioned that using a headset like this, you can gather more data, but that data can then be misused, mistreated, exploited for commercial means, etc., etc. So there are some risks involved in being able to collect this data. But on the other end, if it's used correctly, properly, we can glean a lot into how users are interacting with our products to improve them, to make the process of learning more enjoyable, more engaging, and redesign it to have better learning outcomes in the end, right? So to kind of dig in a little bit deeper into the analytics that are used and being developed and could be exploited for good and bad reasons, we have a kind of whole new suite of sensors and data points that can be collected about users using different types of immersive technology. For example, with the virtual reality, you are now tracking your head movement, pitch, roll, movement, and your eyes are a new eye tracking because we're going to have something called foveated rendering where you don't want to render everything around you. You just want to render what's in front of your face. So it's becoming more common that these headsets have inward-facing cameras that look at your eyes and can tell what you're looking at. This can have whole new types of analytics reflected in them. For example, a heat map that's already being done with augmented reality in the real world. For example, I visited a couple of companies in Osaka that are using this with cameras above vending machines so you can tell where people are gazing and looking at different products, and they can use that to, again, reflect in their future advertising and how they represent products in vending machines. This is also true in virtual environments. Where you gaze, how long you gaze at things can be very revealing in analytics and how engaging they are. This can be dangerous when put into the quote-unquote engagement algorithm that we see in a lot of business models like social media, but this can be very really revealing in a learning environment when we can see a student coming back to look at a specific phrase or an image and needing maybe possible clarification on specific things or things that they find illuminating and keep coming back to. But we can start to glean some other things from this as well. I have some other videos on my YouTube channel that I invite you to go watch about privacy concerns around these. There are some studies that reveal, especially ones that are coming out of Stanford 2-3 years ago, that show that we can de-anonymize people inside of VR with this data. Just like your face is now hashable and can then be matched up with other photos, where you're seeing Apple use your own processing power on all iPhones to hash data looking for specific photos. The same can be true to hash movement patterns inside of VR, which then is able to identify users and also start to glean things about the user psychologically. Learning disabilities, other kind of psychological impediments or conditions can be gleaned. Even your sexual orientation can be understood to a fairly high degree of certainty by tracking and analyzing these data points, these biometric data points. So you can see how dangerous this can be when not treated with the proper respect of this data. So this is the kind of the crux of the trend I hope to install upon everyone watching this, especially when trying to integrate them into more public accessible things like Moodle. Hand tracking, body tracking, all the same things happening here. Environment tracking, for example, in the VR setting, and also AR is also very much evasive when this is concerned. There's cameras that are out-facing, even things that you are not aware of in your environment. This camera systems are taking in and recording. People in their underwear have popped up in the labs of Meta as these pictures have taken in to try to analyze and use these products even better. So cameras are now recognizing logos, brands out in the public, and then, of course, in these business models too, in the quest for advertising dollars, have already being put to use in those roles. And Meta, I have a whole slew of videos. This is probably the most popular now hardware for immersive VR-based technology. It's a very good product as far as a high quality VR, cheap product for schools, but this does not have the best track record, and it doesn't speak a lot well about all of these issues and concerns about. So I invite you to go watch that video if you want to know more about educators and their pitfalls of using meta products like the Oculus Quest line in schools and trying to connect them to things like Moodle. Moodle VR. This is actually an April Fool's joke that came out in 2015 where Moodle was showing a video to initiate a new initiative for Moodle inside of virtual reality. And it's quite reassuring, actually, that people that are developing for Moodle are quite level-headed when it comes to the hype cycle of technology. They said they're going to have a new world of being able to have Moodle inside of VR, but really it was just an April Fool's Day joke in 2015. They put on some Oculus. So you can go watch that video on YouTube as well. There are some uses of Moodle already integrating into different types of immersive technologies. If you do a quick search on past Moodle Moots, you can see developers and educators trying to integrate different forms of immersive technology into their Moodle courses already. One popular thing this already is using YouTube's 360-degree and 180 stereoscopic video that's more well taken in through a headset, but you can watch it on a tablet or a PC or in a browser. So that stuff's very accessible, low-hanging fruit, and is easily linked and embedded into your Moodle content. We're seeing this already. So if you're, in this case, even if you're in a headset and you're one of those very few students right now that are having a browser screen inside of your VR headset, and you can put in some 360 content or some stereoscopic 180 content, and you're in a headset already, all of a sudden you're in that environment, you're standing around, you're looking at it, because YouTube has that ability built in and linked through the headsets that's able to make that possible. Also is true with your phones as well. I have a lot of the times these little glasses. You can watch with some phones 360-degree or stereoscopic. What I mean stereoscopic, it actually shows two videos on your screen, one for each eye, so you can get some idea of depth, which is usually put forth in a lot of virtual environments as well. So the thing with analytics with these, you're passing the analytics on through a link, and then the analytics is being done on the YouTube side of things. And what they're doing with the analytics side, they don't share, they don't actually have a lot of discussion online of what they're doing as far as developing new analytics around using these 360 videos, but it's clear that some data is passed when using them through Google, and some extra analytics can be gleaned when you're using these tools on the YouTube side. So when we start to integrate that more into Moodle natively, we'll have to start thinking about how we're going to treat that data, collect that data, and analyze it in a way that's safe, but also useful. Not an easy thing to do. Another way that we're integrating these is web VR environments. I'm a big proponent of this. Using the open web for VR, and you can link to these environments as well. I can actually have some examples I want to show you in just a moment. But another big thing is linking some existing platforms or apps directly out of Moodle. So everything that's mostly being done now through Moodle is linking outside of Moodle. There isn't a whole lot of integration with these platforms just yet. We can do things like Reality Labo, coming back and forth and using the API to send messages, data back and forth. For example, virtual environments at my Moodle site, togetherlearning.com, made simulations for Model United Nations, for tourism students, a replica, we call them digital twins of different places around, and doing a whole bunch of things as well. If I show you a quick kind of example of what that might look like. Right, this is the Security Council chamber in the UN. You can actually look across the harbor in the real location, and we've had students in here doing leadership training and mock Model United Nations events here in virtual reality. It's a whole suite of those. I recommend that you maybe, if you're interested in stuff like that, to go onto my website and check that out. I'll share those links at the end of this video. So moving forward, what we need is a better framework for handling and exposing biometric data through APIs. And there are several groups already working on these issues and problems. There is the Metaverse Standards Committee, which I'm a part of, and there's a lot of discussion whether how to integrate and how to have things that are on device only. A lot of the big companies, for example, Microsoft with their HoloLens, and some things with the Quest line, try to keep the data that's involved with looking and tracking eye movements and such on device only, and it can't be extracted in any way. But also the XR Safety Board and other committees are starting to come down on better ideas and frameworks on how to pass through this information. So it's useful in analytics, but also not so dangerous. Another thing, there are a few new ideas and ways from which to actually access existing Moodle content inside of VR. And so that might need some native interfaces being able, and this is not some small issue, because interacting with information and things inside of VR with some controllers or your fingers and hands is very much different than a keyboard and mouse. Running my simulations in the past, this has been an issue because you want to type something, you want to write a document, you have to fall back on maybe text-to-speech or speech-to-text or some other way to get your information in, or actually start to do some tricky things with being able to see your keyboard through a headset, et cetera, et cetera. Another big thing that we need moving forward from this is more open educational resources, OERs, for immersive content. And I have a bunch of colleagues and I that are working on this very problem, and I'd like to show you some of those initiatives that we're working on for that very issue as well. One of them is called World Learning Labs, where we are putting together a series of labs, coalition of people having physical spaces and connecting them through immersive technology, so our students can learn together with tools and virtual and augmented reality kind of environments together in physical spaces and not. Together Learning is my own Moodle platform that I'm using to kind of a sandbox a lot of these integrations. Reality Labo, my hometown project, there's a couple of other initiatives and development projects that I have related to that, also being looked to and trying to integrate with Moodle as well. You can find me and all my information and projects and research at erichawkinson.com. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation today. I wish you all the best. Keep Moodle mooting, everybody. Bye-bye now.